All right, guys, time to understand a bit more about Chinese single women. Now, I know I'm going to get an earful from any female subscribers to this channel that might be of the Asian persuasion, but this is not something that I created. I didn't create this type of counterculture and this stereotyping rhetoric because it's coming right out of Chinese social media. So, what's behind, I guess, stereotyping women, and how do guys here? How do they classify single girls when they're meeting them, potentially going to meet them? How do they avoid the perils and pitfalls that many men go through here? And yes, there is a quite a large and active MGTOW movement here, even though they don't call themselves next necessarily MGTOW. But stereotyping Chinese women is one thing, but using this slang to be able to describe the type of girls that guys meet here is another. So I know guys are these days classified as being filthy pigs and insensitive and all that, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Um, the green tea bitch phenomenon, okay, nothing new. It's really come about and been popularized for a couple of years here, at least, but it's really a way for guys to communicate to each other to classify what type of girl they're going to meet. Now, a green tea bitch, as they say, which is a lu chao biao, it basically is a term used to describe a single lady here that actually is very innocent or appears to be innocent. Normally has shiny long hair, parted in the middle, of course, has good looks but is not beautiful, uses her eyes and her other magic weapons in her bag of tricks to get men attracted to her. And in general, what the guys here say about these type of girls are, despite their intelligence, they will always repeat how dumb and futile they are. When deep down inside, really, she's anything but that. She's really very ambitious and would sell her soul for money. Now, every foreigner that's been here in China has met someone like this, and it doesn't apply for all girls that look this way or act this way, but there's always, a potential to be screwed over or misled, especially if you're a foreigner and don't know the lay of the land. I do get a lot of comments and questions, especially over the years, on guys that are moving here, are single, are asking about what's it like to date in China and what to look out for. And I haven't really said too much about that. I haven't been in the business of giving advice for single people. It's not really my bag, but this is a pretty good summary of what to expect from the Chinese guys here. The green tea bitch is one. Coffee bitch is another way to describe a different type of girl here who's high-end, office lady, professional type, quite well off in comparison to some other girls, makes her own money, has money to spend, etc., and constantly mixes fairly good English skills with her Chinese skills, good fashion sense, drinks, smokes, quite promiscuous, wears dark eyeliner, dark clothes all the time. I think every guy that's lived here for a prolonged period of time and is reasonably decent looking and has it together has met a girl like this at the bar or whatever. One to watch out for because she's just as open or more open than girls perhaps in the West, and not a girl you really want to take home to mother, if you know what I mean. For younger guys, it's fun to play with, but you have to be aware that this type of girl has a mean side to her, and that can come back to really bite you. A milk tea bitch, or basically a type of girl that has a very girlish voice and demeanor, extremely sweet looking, is always kind to everyone around here, and seems like she's got the goods to be a potential mate to marry. will take presents kindly from men and accepts it and doesn't really feel shy about that. But when it comes to something going wrong and something that doesn't suit her style, she'll chop your nuts off. That type of girl. Now that type of girl you could actually work with in terms of building a relationship, but the neuroticism is very thick here among not just the girls but also the guys. And this has to do in part with the culture, one-child policy, and the fact that a lot of parents, especially in the larger cities that have a little bit more money to spend and are a little more sophisticated, they raise little emperors or empresses. And so they're used to getting everything that they want. And when it comes to relationships, they expect the same. That can be a problem. Now, one social media user defines this type of classification of women in this way. Green tea bitch. She pretends to be a young girl who is interested in art and literature. She often works as an actress, journalist, hostess, writer, and likes to talk about literature, politics to win a man's heart. And she's successful. She pretends to be an obscure kind of flower, but in fact, she often is the cause of her own demise in relationships. She either has a habit of cheating on her boyfriend or husband, or is somebody's mistress. Okay, that's the concubine phenomenon. Another user on social media here in China says that because of the whole green tea bitch thing, people say it degrades women and the status of women in China, and it brings up the whole male chauvinism thing. But they like to point out who are the bad girls and who are the good girls, so that men would always not be tricked by these type of girls. So it's guys looking out for guys, which is exactly what females do for each other too. So this is inside information somewhat. Let's take a look at how this affects dating too, because like I've said before many times on this channel, that the oldest profession in the world, prostitution, is still rampant, but it's underground ever since the crackdown a few years back. However, there's a new phenomenon here to do with soft drinks outside of campuses and other areas where they can advertise and solicit prostitution based on the type of bottles that are put on cars. In this example here, you see 2 bottles of green tea. And that means something now with the new generation of young people, especially the ones that are involved in the vice trade. If it's milk tea or if it's regular green tea, black tea, or Red Bull, it represents different prices for different kinds of services if everybody involved is on the know. Okay? There's only certain places where these cars park and put this on there. Usually, if it's not on college campuses, it'll be right outside of massage parlors or KTVs or nightclubs. And I found this kind of interesting because I've seen this in the streets before, but didn't really know what it meant. It's just that green tea represents the offer to pay 300 yuan, which is right around $45 US, for services, whereas a can of Red Bull stands for 600 yuan, or right around $90 US, for a date between the John and the girl. Here's a photo, candid camera, of a gal that's going to the car to make a deal. Prostitution, as you may not know, is looked on, I guess, as just a part of the counterculture. It's not looked on here the same way that it is in countries that are, religious, that are more, I guess, with conservative views of the family life and so on. It's just a different set of morals and circumstances. China's female morality sparks outcry. Now, there's a morality school set of standards here in China, okay? And girls that don't fall into exactly what the Communist Party thinks of them as being, your typical upstanding girl. In other words, girls that are caught in prostitution, girls that are caught doing drugs, girls that misbehave and things like that. They're sent to these schools and they're getting up at 4:30 a.m. to scrub floors, being taught to not resist their husbands if their husbands beat them, which is out of control strange when you think about that. But that's a reality here that there's still not any type of equality with women's rights compared to male rights. There's a little bit more flexibility on the pay scale, and that's something that's changed in the past few years, but there's still a double standard. The worst place in the world still to be gay, according to a ranking, is China, because they have what's called these treatment centers. Okay, these treatment centers here, what they do is they try to reprogram the gay male or gay female into being straight again. And the methods that they use at some of these centers are almost brutalistic in nature. What they're doing is forcing them into conversion therapy. And this conversion therapy includes a cocktail of drugs. It includes electroshock therapy, like it did back in the United States, pre-World War II, and even after that, up until the 50s, late 50s, I believe, there was still this opinion of people having alternative lifestyles, and LGBTQ is more popular here, but only about 20% of the population by survey accepts that as being a choice. There are families here that have one boy in the family, and they kind of force a boy to get married even though he may be gay, because they want to have offspring and continue the family name. So they'll do anything to make sure that the marriage takes place and that they procreate. And the girl is often paid or knows about the deal, and they don't really have a relationship, but it's a sham marriage, and that happens quite a bit. They think of anybody that is gay or has an alternative view on sexuality is sick, perverted, diseased, abnormal, dirty, and slutty. And the reprogramming centers are supported by the government, and forced medicine is happening here. It is a huge taboo, and it's something you're not supposed to talk about. And if it's something that you do talk about and you do publicize, or you do try to I guess rail against, they will crack down you immediately. Transgender is something they just don't want to deal with, and that happens all through Asia, really. I guess Thailand being one of the places where it's a little more accepted, but overall, every Asian country that I've been to, it's been a thing where they don't want to admit it. They feel that, in some cases, when I was in Korea many years ago, several times they said that, well, they said there are no gays in Korea. And I would look at them and say, really? They didn't want to admit it. Some of them even said that homosexuality was exported from the West, and that it's not something that is organically an Asian thing, at birth. They see it as being a choice and not that you're born with it. So some complicated social views on not only the homosexual community here, but also views on what determines a decent girl, and what is determining that she is a green tea, black tea, or coffee bitch.